Hey,
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this special stream today on Dark Horse Comics. We are here with the Avatar The Next Shadow crew. This is Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, to be clear, not Avatar The Last Airbender, which
I'm in the
Dark
wrong
Horse does
place.
also publish, but just to be clear. We do both. And this time we're focusing on the James Cameron Avatar universe. And I'm so excited to welcome all of our guests today. I'm going to introduce them in the order just that I have them on my Zoom screen today. So let's start with Josh Izzo. Hello, Josh. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. This is great. This is
And
really
Josh,
cool.
you work for Lightstorm, right? And can you tell us like what that is and what that means to the Avatar?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Joshua Izzo. It's a pleasure, everybody viewing from home. I'm the vice president of franchise development at Lightstorm. And Lightstorm Entertainment is Jim Cameron and John Landau's production company. We're actually the company that is making the Avatar sequels in partnership with the Walt Disney Company. And so it's been pretty awesome.
Very exciting. Oh, there's so much exciting stuff coming up. And we're so thrilled to be part of it, to be bringing you these Avatar comics that kind of expand on the first film and lead into what's coming up next. So I'm also very excited to welcome Jeremy Barlow. Hey, Jeremy.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Jeremy and I like to party. No, I'm just kidding.
Perfect intro. So can you tell folks watching at home, like what it is you do on these comics?
Oh, I'm the writer. I wrote the story and the script, which Josh Hood brought to life magnificently. But yeah, I've been working with Dark Horse for a long time on licensed books, Avatar, Alien Predator, Star Wars, a number of things. So yeah, that's the part I play here.
Yeah. All those good old franchises. It's exciting. We're doing some more Star Wars stuff now, actually, with some of the art books. Yeah, like Star Wars
nice.
Rebels. Yeah. Some really beautifully designed art books, as always, from the crew at Dark Horse. So that's fantastic. It's nice to kind of get back to those roots a little bit.
yeah, that's great.
And last but certainly not least, just in the order of my windows here, welcome to Josh Hood. Hey, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Another Josh. We have two Joshes, so I'm going to have to try and be clear today. But so Josh, what do you do on these Avatar comics?
I am the line artist, sort of the director of the book, as it were.
Yeah, we're going to take a lot of looks at Josh's beautiful interior art today. Line art, we've got some thumbnails, some process art to show you all, as well as the final interiors. We're going to preview some of that because Avatar The Next Shadow, the first issue number 1, is now available wherever comics are sold. The pandemic has caused some interesting issues with shipping. So some comic shops actually may have gotten this a little bit early. So those of you who got an early peek at it, congrats. But it is widely available now at any comic shops and also on digital platforms. All our comics are available widely at Comixology, Dark Horse Digital. That's digital.darkhorse.com. So wherever you like to read comics should now be available for you. One thing we love to do on these streams is to call out local comic shops, because especially with the pandemic, we know local businesses are kind of struggling, and a lot of comic shops have been going above and beyond to stay open, to do at-home deliveries, to do online ordering, and all those kinds of things. So comicshoplocator.com can help you find a shop near you if you need some help checking out ones that are in your area, or also just ones that have bigger online ordering capabilities. But I love to ask our guests if you have any favorite shops near you or wherever in the world that you'd like to call out now. So take it away, guys.
Yeah, our office is down in Manhattan Beach in California and in Orange County. And my local shop that I go to whenever I'm looking to pick something up is the Comic Bug. And they've been absolutely an incredible store, great back issue stuff, but their kind of core main selection of comics really is kind of exemplary, because they're one of the shops that I've been to in my life, and I've lived in Manhattan and all over the place. They really do focus on not only the big publishers, where they do, all of the Dark Horse, the Dynamite, Image, Marvel, DC, but they'll go above and beyond and really supply every indie publisher. So you can find almost everything there, which I love to kind of explore and find new titles. So, that's they're a great shop. So if you're down in the South Bay, Comic Bug in Manhattan Beach is a great spot.
Fantastic.
Things from Another World Milwaukee is my neighborhood store. I get down there when I can. That's they're great. They're really great. There's that, and there's also a store in Portland called Cosmic Monkey that I really like.
Cool.
That is kind of the same thing. They have just got such a wide range of indie and European comics. I have bought so many Jodorowsky books there that
Nice.
they're sort of my go-to for that sort of stuff. So they're fantastic. So yeah, Things from Another World and Cosmic Monkey are my go-tos.
Excellent.
I've got a few actually. Here in Atlanta, there's a brand new store that just opened up right before the pandemic sort of crashed everything. Infinite Comics and Games in Northeast Atlanta. And then there's always Dr. Knows, which is sort of a library of trade paperbacks. I mean, everything you could possibly think of, foreign and domestic, you go in there and you can find it.
That's cool.
And I split a lot of time between here and Savannah. And in Savannah, there is another brand new store that opened up right before the pandemic started, Neighborhood Comics and Games on Bull Street. And they're all, I mean, everybody's they want to be as helpful as they can be. And they've kept open and they've kept working, and it's been nice.
That's great.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's really
Awesome.
Impressive. Like opening right before the pandemic and staying through it. That's amazing. So yeah, like I said, we love to support your local shops if you can. One thing that a lot of comic shops do, if you're new to comics or less familiar with comics, you can usually sign up for a subscription at comic shops, a poll box, a poll list. There are a few different names for it, but check with your shop to see if you can subscribe so that you can make sure to get each issue of the comic series as it comes out approximately monthly. Right now, we just have issue number 1 out, so that's what we're going to focus on today. And then after the miniseries concludes, we'll have a graphic novel available at both comic shops and bookstores. And I also love to shout out bookstores because all our graphic novels and art books and all those good things are available there as well. If you need help finding any open bookstores near you, indiebound.org is another great website to use. And we have all of these on our website as well, darkhorse.com. You can always find links to where you can find comic shops, bookstores, etc., on all of our detail pages there. So we'll be dropping some links in the chat as we go along today. Just a few more quick things before we dive into the discussion today of all things Avatar: The Next Shadow. For everybody who's watching at home, again, thank you so much for joining us wherever you are in the world. We're really excited to talk about the comic series with you and also the previous comic series, Sute's Path, which is now available in a graphic novel. If you are in the chat today, you can enter our giveaway to win a copy of both Avatar: The Next Shadow issue number 1 and Avatar Sute's Path, the trade paperback collection. These are available to you. We'll have one prize in the giveaway today. And all you need to do in the chat is enter the giveaway keyword, which is Pandora. Figured that was easy enough.
Nicely done.
Pandora.
Nicely done.
Once and only once. I didn't want to get into Navi language.
I could have suggested like a really long, complicated Navi word, but I think you nailed it.
I know. I was like, Omadikaya. No, people need to be able to spell it. And maybe not something you would use in a normal sentence, So keyword, just enter it once and your entry will be counted. And we'll draw a winner near the end of the stream today. And we're going to talk a little bit more about both comic series as we get into this. But you can also drop your questions for the comics creators in the chat today. We are going to focus on Avatar: The Next Shadow, the comic series, or Sute's Path. But we're here to talk more about the comics today than the films. So we will give you some overviews of kind of the whole universe and how these comics fit into it, but we're definitely comics focused today, just a heads up. So please feel free to start dropping your questions in the chat and our moderators will keep an eye out. And with that said, let's get started. Less of me talking, more of you talking. So how have you guys, first of all, just been holding up? How are things going during the pandemic? Are you still working on a lot of projects? How's the Avatar comics process going for you right now?
Jeremy, Josh, you want to take that?
Well, Yeah, so yeah, it's been challenging. I mean, I joke with my wife and my friends that as a freelancer, I've been freelancing for 10 years or so. I've been in self quarantine for about a decade. So it doesn't. What really felt different to me at first about the pandemic is that all my neighbors were home suddenly. So part of my process is I go out and I walk. I come up with story ideas and I walk and I work and I walk and I work, and I get in this zone. And now everybody's home, or they were, last summer, and I'm just running into people right and left and having conversations, and it's just completely destroying my process. But yeah, it's been tough. I had a lot of projects lined up in 2020 that kind of fell by the wayside because of the pandemic and the printers shutting down, and yeah, it was tough. It was, just like everybody, it's been a grind, but there seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel now, and we're doing good. But yeah, work's picking back up again for me. I've taken the time to work on a lot more original stuff, which is something I've always wanted to do. And yeah, and I'm super happy about Next Shadow. I'm happy that this is coming out and it looks amazing, and I can't wait for people to see it.
Yeah, we're getting back on track with single issues after those printer
Yeah.
closures and things like that. So yeah, very happy to be able to bring these into the world now.
Yeah.
And have you guys, is this the first time you've all kind of seen each other and been able to interact?
Yeah.
So I've had conversations with Jeremy as we've been working through some story stuff as part of the process, and we can get into that. But this is the first time that I'm meeting our artist Josh, who's done an exemplary job on the book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Absolutely beautiful work.
Yeah, these are going to be a treat for all you Avatar fans out there.
Josh just sent some pages in this morning or late last night.
They're
fantastic,
it, guys. Let's temper the expectations here.
Well, and actually, that's funny that you mentioned that, Jeremy. That's our editor sent me those pages to review, and they're in my inbox. I'm remiss. I'm actually, because there's been other stuff going on, but I'm like, that was on the agenda for this afternoon, was to open those pages and get those off and approved today. So I'm actually hearing you talk about how good they are. Now I'm extra hyped to get to take a look.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of process art and like character studies and things to show you guys today as we're chatting too. So we'll kind of start cycling through those as we chat along.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see some of the like character designs and so forth that Josh has done, and the interiors of the comics. So we're already getting some questions from the chat, which is great. Thank you so much, everybody watching. Really quick, I mean, if they're secrets, I don't know if you can tell them, but Jeremy, while you were writing this comic, did you learn anything new to you about the Avatar universe?
Oh man. Well, before we get to that, I didn't hear from Josh Hood about his pandemic survival.
Yeah, please, Josh. How are you doing?
For me, freelancing, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Every day for me is exactly the same. Only my daughter wasn't going to school anymore, so I was trying to draw with her literally climbing on top of my shoulders.
How old is she?
She just turned 5 in December.
Wow.
The end of December.
Good age. It's a good age.
Oh, that's great.
It's a great age if you can hand her off for a couple of hours in the middle of the day. When you can't, man. Whew.
Man, I have so much sympathy and admiration for people who are working from home right now with kids. Kids are wonderful, but I know what you mean. It's just like, and especially for what we do, you've got to be able to sit down and work.
Right. There's not a lot of moving around. I can't drag my desk with me everywhere I go.
Right.
Her
right. So yeah, that's it's nice to have some help. But great. I'm glad you're holding up. I'm glad you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Right
so the question was secrets about the Avatar. I mean, can you read that again?
Secrets are like, I'm going to alter it slightly because secrets are secrets. But if you learned anything new, that had a bearing on your writing.
So I'm just like anyone else. Like my experience with Avatar was seeing the movie, and I read Sute's Path before I started working. And what really impressed me is the volume of material that Josh Izzo has access to in terms of like just the lore of the Yamatakaya and Pandora and the flora and fauna. I mean, there's no way for anybody to know that stuff because it's all internal with James Cameron, And so when I first pitched the story, I was just going off the knowledge I had from watching the movie. And fortunately, Josh was able to come back and show me, not even stuff that has anything to do with the upcoming movies, just the amount of work that went into that first movie to just build the world was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. So that kind of blew my mind. that, even just talking about a species of bird that might appear on one page in 2 panels, we spent some time talking about that and why it would be, why it would look a certain way, and why it would, be in a certain area of the plant. It was just, it was amazing. It was just amazing to me. And the way that the Amatakai live together, it shows when you watch the movie, it shows that there's a lot of thought put into that, but I didn't really appreciate how much information there was done, I think before production probably even started on that first movie.
Yeah, shout out to the whole Avatar team. I of course have been following their social media for quite a long time, and they are putting out so much incredible detail. Like, there's so much world building. It's so rich. Yeah. Like you said, every bird, every animal, every plant, the language, they've
so much thought.
Everything.
So much thought is put into it. I love it. I love it so much. And it makes my job more fun, because I don't have to guess, I do guess when I'm starting out, but Josh, Izzo, you're so good at, like, if I didn't quite hit the mark, you just nudge me in the right direction. And that I've worked on books before where that's not the case, where I've turned in script or story treatments, and the feedback that I've got is like, well, this species wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, what would they do? Like, what? Help me here, because I don't know. So I really have appreciated the process in terms of that, just the encyclopedic knowledge that you've had to help me hit the target.
Well, we look at all of our, Dark Horse Comics has been partnered with James Cameron for years. If you really think about it, mm-hmm. They did Aliens, they've worked on Terminator. They did, they worked on The Abyss. They did mm-hmm. a movie adaptation. So they've really been part of kind of Jim's story world for an incredibly long time, and helped, build that derivative content library. So we see Dark Horse Comics, as partners. Really, it's a really great partnership to help build out the lore and the derivative story world of the Avatar universe. And that's how we want to work with all of our people, with Jeremy, with Josh. This isn't like, it's not a dictatorship to say, do this. It's how do we work together best to tell the best story, to create the best product, to put out for, the Avatar fandom.
And we appreciate that very much. Well, before we get into too much of a deep dive on it, can you all talk a bit about how this project came together in the first place and how you came to work on it? And I don't know, maybe we can start with Josh Hood this time.
I got this job through my agent. It's good to have people working for you,
Yeah.
Send them out and hey, bring me back whatever you can find.
That's some good hustle right there. I like that.
Yeah. Good.
Who I've also never met, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
So, never met him.
How long have you had a future Zoom?
How long have you had an agent?
Just, what? I got him just before I got this job, so he's doing pretty good so far.
Great.
Right on.
Great.
Right on.
Yeah, I came to it. Randy Stradley, who was the editor on the book, hired me. I'd been working with him on a couple of other projects at the time when this came up. And I don't really know, Cherie Smith had done Sute's Path, and had just crushed it on that. So I'm not quite sure where I come in, or, what piece of the puzzle I am there. But yeah, Randy asked me if I'd be interested in working on Avatar. And I kind of have a rule for myself when I'm working on things that licensed books, that I like to work on things that I have some sort of emotional investment in, if it's a license that I like, because writing is hard, and it's hard enough to write about something you care about, it's let alone something you don't. So when he asked me, I just thought, yeah, this sounds fun. Let's do it. And gave me there was a little nugget of a story that Cherie had been working on that Josh Izzo can maybe talk more about. The idea that Sute's family would be upset with Jake's sort of taking the role of leader of the Amatakaya and how they would react to that. That was my starting point. And then I just built out from there. But yeah, that's how I came into it. It was Randy and Judy, who have been amazing. They are so fun to work with. They're so good.
Second.
Yeah.
What a fantastic team. Yeah, I really do want to shout out everybody who's not able to join us today. Editors Randy Stradley and Judy Koo. They're fantastic. What a great team. and excellent coworkers, even though Randy spends most of his time in the woods now. Cover artist on all of these is Guillermo Balbi. He's amazing. We would love to have him on at some point. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us today, but his cover art's fantastic. He also recently did our last last Aliens series, rather, before that license moved after a very long time. But what a way to go out with Guillermo Balbi doing the art there. Also, colorist on the series is Wes Gioba. He colors a lot of our comics and does an amazing job. And then letters are also by Michael Heisler, another longtime Dark Horse collaborator. So fantastic job from that entire team. Designers too. I love to shout out the designers because you guys don't really get to see or hear from them very much. But Sarah Terry, designer at Dark Horse, she's the one who does kind of the overall design of these comics and the eventual graphic novel. And she's fantastic, did a phenomenal job on these. And also digital art technician Anne Gray. So those are the folks you don't get to see or hear about too much, but they really play a big part in putting these comics together. So a lot of behind the scenes folks on these. Gosh, so Josh Izzo, this is like weird because we have two Joshes, so I have to be very, it's like, like in kindergarten, you would call people by their first name and like last initial. Yeah.
Yeah. And our last names are really close. So it would be like we'd stand behind each other in line.
Right. All the Joshes over here. Yeah. I have not encountered very many Karas in my life, actually, at least not with the spelling that I have. Mm-hmm. And so I like to take a Highlander view of it and say there can be only one. There's only one now at Dark Horse. This was like the only time I had met another Kara with
I'm not going to fight you, Josh. Just FYI.
You're on opposite coasts. It works out.
True.
East Coast Josh, West Coast Josh. Maybe that's how we should do it.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Okay. So with that in mind, East Coast Josh,
go down.
have you guys worked together before? Have any of you collaborated on previous comics, or is this the first time?
First time, right?
Yeah, this is the first time for this creative team for me, and it's been a real pleasure. I think just to go back a little bit to what Jeremy was talking about in terms of the genesis of the story, and it kind of ties into the larger avatar of it all. So when I first joined at Lightstorm, I was provided this kind of like telephone book of notes. And it's all of Jim's notes on the world of Avatar. And we lovingly refer to it as the Pandorapedia. And that is kind of, I'm the keeper of that. So that is all of the lore and all of the stories and all of everything. It's everything you ever wanted to know about Pandora and the world of Avatar, but was afraid to ask. And, within that as well, are character ideas and small storytelling snippets, because Jim is a consummate storyteller. He and his producing partner, John Landau, have created an amazing world, and they've really built out a beautiful story universe. And there are these little tiny beats that were punctuated throughout that. So, after Sute's Path was crafted, which again was one of kind of Jim's initial ideas, which was telling Avatar from a different point of view, a camera B, which is really what it was. There were a couple really fun story starters that I kind of mined out of that story. And this one rose to the top, was a tale of Sute, the boy who didn't get the girl, who ended up passing away at the end of Avatar, who was going to be the leader of the Omaticaya clan after he died. Jake took over, was his family's reaction to that. And so, as Jeremy noted, Cherie, who was the writer on Sute's Path, kind of put together a really great story pitch, like a nice, great, tight log line. And that was approved by Jim. Like that went to, he said, yes, let's do this. And so then that went to Jeremy, and Jeremy fleshed out the story to a much richer, much deeper level, which included all of the really unbelievable human pieces of the storytelling, which is so important to Jim because all of Jim's stories have a lot of heart, and they're all very human stories. So Jeremy brought so much of that to this idea. Yes. And that, again, that went off to the filmmakers, and that came back approved. And then that's how it all just started. And we worked back and forth to really make this thing sing. And then on the other side of the Avatar universe is, we work with our costume department. run by Deb Scott, who is fantastic, and her whole team. And Josh, as he was, East Coast Josh, there are characters in this book that East Coast Josh, there's characters in this book that have never been seen. They're all new characters. So all of Sute's family, Ateo and Arvak and Artsut, mom, dad, and brother, are brand new characters in the Avatar canon. So working with our costume department and getting reference, Josh was actually able to design, develop, and kind of build the look of those characters, which are now canonically in our world. So working with all of our different, kind of creative partners here, Jeremy on art, Jeremy on story, and Josh on art, we really found a great way to make this thing, to build this whole, which has been fantastic.
So yay, I'm helping.
Yeah, we've got some of those character designs in the mix here too. So we'll be showing those on the visuals as we go along here. This ties into something you guys were chatting about a little bit earlier, which I'd love to explore a little bit more about how these comics are in fact canon. Do you mind diving into that a little bit, Josh, etc.?
Yeah, sure.
West Coast Josh?
Yes. So this story in the Avatar universe timeline takes place essentially 1 week and change, a little bit, in that pocket between 1 and 2 weeks after the end of the first Avatar film. So all of the events from the first Avatar film have happened, and we're showcasing kind of the fallout of what that looks like. So, all of the humans have been expelled from Pandora, and Jake is finding his way. And this is one of the things that Jeremy has done an amazing job is finding the humanity and the heart of what Jake Sully is currently living through right now. Where at the end of, in Avatar, he says, I'm not leader material. I'm not commanding officer material. Jake, he was a grunt, but now he finds himself as Oloektan, the secular leader of this clan, whose home tree is now destroyed, and kind of having to prop up this clan. And what is my role in this? And, and Jeremy can talk a little bit about kind of all the different beats that we're hitting, but, this is, Sute's path is the retelling of the first film with some extra added kind of bonus material, but this really is an all new, officially canonical story that is part of the Avatar franchise now. And it's, it fits in perfectly. And I think he's done a great job to kind of really capture everybody's, the right tone and the right spirit of our characters.
Yeah, and that's really what hooked me. Thinking about even watching the movie, when the RDA declares war on the home tree, everybody has to make a decision really fast on whose side they're on. Even the workers back at the base, back at Hell's Gate, have got to decide whose side am I on right now. I don't have time to sleep on this. I don't have time to talk to my family about this. We've just got to go. And Jake is the point of that spear. He's a soldier, like you say, but he's not leader material. And I was really interested in the idea of what happens the next day to these miners, who are like, okay, I'm going to stay here. This originally was a job, but now I've made a decision my life is here now. What do you do when you regret that decision? What do you do when you have second thoughts? And I really like the idea of Jake, not only with this enormous responsibility on his shoulders now of leading this clan, but he's physically changed. He's in a new body. And it just seemed very human to me to kind of, once the adrenaline dies down. I mean, we've all been in a situation where we've had to make snap decisions, and then afterwards you think, oh man, was that right? Did I do the right thing? And I just built it out from there. But yeah, that to me is, anytime I start a story, I try to find what the heart of it is or what the emotional entry point or hook is. And that one was easy. I just thought there's so many layers to this idea, so many different personalities you can sort of explore this way. And just as a fan, I just wanted to know, like, when Jake wakes up at the end in the Navi body, what's next? I'm sure he feels just elated for a couple of days. And then it's like, okay, what comes after that? Because that's when the real work starts. So as far as that goes, it's hard to execute an idea like that, but that is what got me excited originally. And we just went from there.
Yeah, and just to tack on to the emotion of it, as Jeremy was noting, that's something that really has come through in the art.
Yeah.
That Josh has done an unbelievable
Hey,
job
kitty.
in ensuring that you, the viewer and the reader, are feeling what Jake is feeling. And you understand that both emotional, mental struggle that he's going throughout this story. Because it really is, there's some great action beats, don't get us wrong, because that's another, hallmark of Jim's work is a marriage between action and emotion, and it all has to work together. So we've got that, but being able to really kind of get into see what Jake is going through and deal with some of his demons, Josh has done a beautiful job of bringing those words to life.
Yeah, and if I can just add on to that too, the one of the things that I've appreciated with you, West Coast Josh, is that working with you on really emotionally developing Sute's family in this, and making sure that their motivations are really complicated and really human, which is weird, in the best sense. And that they weren't just bad guys in the story, like they really believe that what they're doing is righteous. Yep. And part of that is those last few pages that Josh Hood drew in that first issue, where Arvok is talking to his father, and then father and mother are talking in that cave. Man, Josh, those were fantastic. I'd seen the line art, but I hadn't seen the colored version, before the comic came out, before I picked it up last week. And it is just striking, like how well you pulled that scene off with all of it. So thank you.
It's really dramatic.
Yeah.
It's so nice. Like I write a script, and a lot of times I don't know what the result is going to be. And I've worked sometimes in situations where I've sent a script off, maybe to an artist who doesn't speak English, and so sometimes context is lost. I really try to write in a clear way so that the emotion comes through. But man, you just nailed it. You took what I did and you just made it so much better. And I love it. I really love it.
Heck yeah.
You try to focus on the acting. A lot of the way you sell the emotion of any scene is through the body language. You can't be angry and dance at the same time. You know what I mean? Like they have to look hunched over, or if they're pleading, they have to have kind of a shoulders forward, curved back. I mean, there's so much that goes into that kind of stuff, selling those ideas.
I had watched you did an interview, Josh Hood, a little while back with, I think, your local comic shop.
Oh yeah.
And what was really striking to me, some of your processes, you talked about how challenging it was to draw the Navi that don't have eyebrows.
Yep.
And like,
how
like conveying emotion on a face with no eyebrows was, I hadn't ever thought it. I have no reason to think of it that way. But
I think Jake does, because his avatar is different than the regular Navi body. He has he's got eyebrows, the extra digit, but all the Navi, that's not part of their biology. Is their faces are essentially hairless. So that is being able to show pain or emotion without that easily readable marker. It's great.
I was also noticing that their noses are sort of like bovine or leonine, and
they're cat-like.
There's not a lot. You can't, like with a snarl, the nostril in a human goes way up, but in their nose, with that flat plane, you can't really do that. So a lot of the acting has to be in the eyes and the mouth, which you wouldn't think about. I mean, normally you're drawing a guy and you're just like, oh, whatever. That's how you do it. What if you start stripping things away?
Yeah.
Now, how do I do it?
Succeeded. So
I think that's what made that last scene with the parents. I went back and looked at it after I saw you say that, and I'm like, oh man, he's right, and he did it. He nailed it.
Yep.
And we've got, thank you, Gary, as always. Those who are regular viewers know that Gary is behind the scenes here. Gary is kind of showcasing some of that black and white line art from Josh as we go along here too. Nice. Yeah, and the final colors, of course, make it really pop. But look at how much he's able to express through just the black and white. Like that's amazing.
The colorists on these books have got to do a ton of heavy lifting though, because every character has those striations in their face. I mean, they're practically striped and other small details that you just can't do in black and white.
Yeah, all the bioluminescence and their bioluminescent dot patterns. Like each Navi, that's individual to each Navi. That's not like a general, it's not like Spidey's webbing where it's like every single time it's the same thing. Like each Navi's got that. It's different. Natiri's is different than Jake's. It's different.
Oh my goodness.
But,
Wow.
So yeah. So, and actually that's, it's funny that you mentioned that because that's something we worked on early in the process with Sute's Path, with the colorist on that book, is to make sure that the Navi looked appropriately Navi, that the striping was as, that everybody had the right stripe patterns and the bioluminescent dots were, are they just soft enough? Are they, it's not like somebody took, a whiteout pen and like, boop, 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 boop. Like, so on our books thus far, our colorists have done a really, incredible job of capturing that. And the other thing is light. So, your line art really does showcase, light shadow, but when you throw in the colors to really bring Jim's Pandora to life, that the color, the richness of that world, really, it really does shine. Right, Kat? Correct.
I love that cat. I'm so
Beast. Yes,
Rex.
Rex.
He's known to our regular viewers also. He's a ham. He basically, I'm pretty sure he hears me talking, like he hears other people talking. He's like, oh, people.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
gonna come to hang out.
That
But
person's leg, I'm allergic, so he'd be on my lap. Like,
yeah,
They know. They always know.
100%. Yeah. He's like, you don't smell like any other cats, so you need to smell like me. I am your best friend now. Yeah. So Rex is here. Hi to Rex's fan.
Rex. Love it.
Yeah, and I feel like, it's appropriate to have some wildlife while we're talking about
of
Avatar.
course.
Man, we're getting a lot of really great questions from the chat. I'm going to keep trying to work them in as we go along. A lot of questions, maybe some people that are tuning in more recently too. Curiosity about how involved James Cameron is on this. Like, does he sign off on all of this? Does he review everything before it goes to print?
Yeah, so like we were talking about a little bit earlier, the story ideas for most everything, like I said, I have a story bank that come from Jim's notes. So right off the bat, we're utilizing the filmmaker's ideas. So this is not something that is like just off the rails. We're coming up with something out of thin air. This is something that, is from Jim's mind. So we start from that. The kernel of that idea. And then, the stages of licensed, any comic publishing, it goes from story synopsis to script, pencils, inks, colors, final. So basically anything that's story related. So the larger story synopsis plus the scripts, the full scripts, those all go to Jim's office and, we get notes back. So that's pretty much, so Jim focuses on story. Art and, the other side of, the other part of the house, that normally comes to us through our Disney partners. But if we need to, like we talked about earlier, like the costume department will get involved. So how does the Omaticaya, we have new characters that we've never seen before. Okay, how do we have any reference material that we can provide that either was not in the films or developed and wasn't used? Like Sute's mother, that costume that Josh drew in the book, that's actually that's another design for Moat, Natiri's mother, that never was used. So we actually found other material that was fully vetted and part of the Avatar canon that was then reappropriated for something else. Wow. So now it feels real and it feels like it matters within our universe. Same with the architecture, same with some of the RDA characters. That all comes from our art department. So our Navi organic team who is we have a team that is dedicated specifically to organic stuff and a team that's specifically dedicated to the RDA stuff. So if we need to, we kind of pull from them to provide to our artists, to Josh, here's what this looks like, here's what that looks like. And then there was some other times where Josh invented and it went back and, things went back and forth.
Will anybody ever get to see that reference? Because it's like top notch. I mean, it's really nice stuff and easy to work from because it's so detailed. I thought for sure it's made for a game that's going to be coming up or another movie or something. But
no, that is so Jim is, the Avatar movies have been in development for years. Yeah. The art department for Avatar 2 turned on, I think, in 2012 or 2013. So he's been working on the film for quite some time, and it's really, as Jeremy was noting earlier in the stream, these worlds are completely built. There is, Jim, we refer to it, he lovingly refers to it as science fact. And he doesn't do anything unless there is research and it is grounded in research or some type of cultural reality. So to your point, Josh, that those costumes had been developed for Moat. Films are huge. So they go on and they change or they modify. So we have tons of that stuff. So will we see that again one day? Maybe. There's
that's incredible.
Art books, there's all sorts of stuff that could come out, but there's a lot of material that we're able to kind of bring out of that process to help support things like our comics, which are a very visual medium that we want to make sure that is the visual clarity marries up identically to what you're going to see on screen. So it all makes sense together. Yeah.
And I have to say my experience in this, I think I had written a short story sort of pitch, and then I'd written a longer issue by issue breakdown, and I sent that to you guys. And I got back like copious notes from Jim on that, on those issue breakdowns. And my first reaction was like, oh, wow, this is great. And then my second reaction was like, oh, crap, he's reading this stuff. Like I've really got to like pull it out here because I do not want to let him down. And I went through about a week where I was freaked the F out. I got to be honest, where it's like, because that's not been my experience always. Sometimes when I turn in a story pitch or something, it just goes to the company's marketing department, and they just, whatever. So I felt an extra layer of pressure. And also of like, I don't want to be cheesy, but also like honor, like, oh, I'm actually like participating in the construction of this world with him, well, like it was just a crazy feeling. It was a crazy feeling. And it's all the way up to the last page of the last issue script. I'm always keeping that in mind, like just be true to this vision, bring my own voice to it, but harmonize, like make sure that this is right in this pocket. And it was wild. Yeah, I'll be super corny, but everything we look at in our universe, from interactive to licensing to publishing, we look at the AWA-ness of it all, because everything in Pandora, as fans know and people who saw the movie, everything's connected and everything matters. And we look at all of our various partnerships like that. So our comics matter, and they are connected to the films in however, either by character or by storyline. The character that's actually on screen right now, that human woman right there, that's Catherine Hale. She's actually a character that was introduced in in Pandora Rising, our mobile game that's in beta right now from Scopely Games. We've brought her into the fold canonically to make her a character within our universe now. So again, we've got this kind of AWA-ness of it all, where we want to make sure that it all matters and it all connects in some way, so that if you watch the film, you get a great experience. If you read the comics and watch the film, your experience is that much better. If you play the games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we really want to build that universe for everybody out there in the world.
That's a very, very cool thing about all of these James Cameron projects that I think Dark Horse has worked on over the years, is that it's not just a retelling. Right. Comics are not just a retelling of what you've already seen. It's new original content, but it's integrated. It's part of the universe. And there's such a vast, rich world around this particular series and just franchise altogether that it's wonderful to be a part of. And it's really cool to see like the different parts of it come together. And you can see that influence in the writing and in the artwork, and just, it's very exciting to be a part of. And I hope fans are enjoying it too. Man, lots of great questions. Like I said, coming from the chat, I'm going to give you, so we've got some fun ones.
Lightning round. Do you want to do a lightning round real quick?
Yeah, well, I do. Gosh, there are two like fun ones that I want to give you, and I'm like trying to decide if I should save them till the end. But here, how about this? Who would win in a fight, a Navi or a Predator?
Oh boy. Well, I'm contractually obligated to say Navi, so I'm out. Yeah, gentlemen, take it away, gentlemen.
Man, okay, so here's my answer. It depends on where the fight is at. right? If it's on Pandora, I don't know if the Predator is
maybe.
going to be at a disadvantage.
Well,
I don't know.
that's kind of their whole shtick, though, is going places and killing things.
Right. I mean, that's their challenge, right? Like they like to go to unfamiliar territory, and man, that is a good question. That is a tough call.
I'm not saying he'd win walking away, but I'd have to give it to the Predator.
Yeah.
Well, get out.
Okay.
Wait, let him. No. Let him finish the issue first.
There would be one. There would be like the Dutch Navi, who's at the end all covered in ash, and oh, this is a terrible idea. I don't know why I came here.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be a new short, one shot or something right here.
Navi versus Predator.
Yeah.
I would.
So thank you for that. That was a really
I would
fun
write it.
question.
That's cute. I like that. That was good.
Yeah.
Another one that I think is interesting, and you could talk about this in a lot of different ways. Like maybe each of you have a different takes on it too. But do you have any favorite characters? Maybe favorite character to write in this series, or to draw in this series, or just overall in The Next Shadow?
East Coast Josh,
you want to kick us off?
Yeah, favorite character to draw is the names. He's introduced he's introduced in this issue when he's stopping Catherine Hale in the small loader.
Oh, Ka'ani.
Yeah.
Ka'ani, yeah.
One of the other, he's an Omaticaya warrior. Yep.
Right. I like him. He's got kind of a sleek look to him, and he not so is a little more generalized, I guess, than what Tusei was, or he's got a nice dangerous look. He would be the guy that would kill the Predator, I think.
Yeah.
Nicely played. Well played.
Yeah. I like that character too. I liked writing all the characters for different reasons because they all had such interesting motivations. I tried really hard to capture Jake's voiceover voice in that, because that was something I really connected to in the movie. But in particular, I guess like Ka'ani is an interesting character to me. Arvok, Sutei's brother, I think is a really complex character that if people are going to see as the story goes along, that has got such an interesting internal conflict to me, and he's trying to stay true to himself and stay true to his brother's memory and stay true to his parents. And all of those things are opposed to each other at some points. There was nobody, I'll have to say this, there was no character that I did not enjoy writing in this book. The human miners have got some interesting conflict that people are going to see coming up. It's tough. I'll say Natiri, right? She's only in a little bit of the story. I'll just say that.
Urtsuit, the mother.
Yeah.
She's an interesting character too.
That's
very complex headgear to try to make work, but she's sort of insidious in a way, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm with you, Jeremy. Everybody in the story was really well built out, and they all felt very real. But Artsut as a character and her motivations and kind of the lore that is built around her as a contemporary of Moat, and her feeling of loss and kind of anger at what she feels is owed to her and her family. She and the progression of that character from issue 1 to the end of the series is I think that's my favorite arc. Even though it's Jake's story and Jake goes through some unbelievable stuff, and fans are going to love what we're cooking up with Jake with this kind of the series and what he goes through. This kind of like weird silver-tongued Loki Machiavellian character. She was I really loved her as a character in the way that you kind of built her out. So I think she's my favorite.
She's pretty captivating. I know when I first read the comic, like that's
her right there.
Yeah, that page that we're showing now. Yeah. I love that. I love that page.
She's kind of like she's sort of like she's painted in the book as kind of like almost a bad version of Moat for a while. Almost an anti-Moat in this story. And I think that came out, I think that's really cool. It's a very fun character.
And that actually ties into another good question we've got for East Coast Josh. That's never not going to be funny to me. So the Navi are obviously they're humanoid, but you had kind of touched on this earlier. They don't have human proportions or maybe like facial features. How difficult was that? Like, how much did you have to overcome or practice? Based on normal drawings of actual human characters, was it difficult?
When you do as many panels and pages as a comic book artist has to do in each book, I feel like you not necessarily get into a rut, but there are certain shortcuts to doing human proportions and human bodies and that kind of thing. And so I have trained my mind and my hand to do that over the last 20 years. So all of a sudden you have to like stretch all that out. They have long, skinny torsos and long limbs, almost spider-like limbs. So I was fighting the whole way, and I still think I kind of make them a little too thick.
No,
they should be a little more Gossamer-like, I think.
No, I hard disagree.
Oh well, I appreciate it.
And to that point, Josh, East Coast Josh, there are weird biological things like the Nomadicae have a strange kind of sternum bone thing going on here. Like you've captured some of that. Like
it's really you can really see it on Tutse.
Yeah, Tutse. You did. I think it's great. No, it's awesome. And actually, I have a process question for you, East Coast Josh.
Right.
Are you traditionally drawing, or is everything layouts, pencils, and inks all digital?
The layouts you can see for one of the issues, I think that's number 4, is pinned up here. Those are done on paper. After that, everything else is digital.
You're traditionally inking. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't know because I would get the layouts in for approval and they'd be all roughed in and it looked it looked like, digital illustrations, but I wasn't sure if you were doing this, if you finished your processes all on digital stuff or you actually were, inking it.
After that, it's just so much easier to do it digitally, especially with the kind of crowd scenes that we do. And, every 4th panel, you got to draw the jungle. And if you want to sell it, you got to draw the jungle. So on paper, that would just take a trillion years.
Cool. Nice.
Jungle. Is there anything what did you find was most, I guess, challenging or did you, I don't like to ask what's your least favorite, but did anything kind of get to be a bit too much for you after a while?
The braids. They all have these crazy long heads full of braids. And in close-up scenes, you have to draw a billion little braids, and you gotta, so I created a little like a shortcut to do the longer ones. But when their hair is bunched up, you have to add little highlights and stuff to make it actually seem like thin, maybe centimeter wide braids. And everybody's got them everywhere. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, there's not a lot of differentiating hairstyles amongst Navi right now. So yeah, that's a thing. I feel you.
Gosh, again, I'm just kind of looking through the questions we're collecting here. Was there anything that really stood out to all of you about the first movie that really touched you and made you excited to work on more of these projects? Anything you remember about that first film that you'd like to call out?
Gentlemen?
I liked all the technical stuff. The designs for the human gear was great. The environments for Pandora are there. I mean, people were depressed when they left the theater because they couldn't live somewhere that cool. So just the my initial enthusiasm came from everything but the characters.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had a little bit of the same experience, just being walking out of the theater and just thinking I just saw something incredible. I just saw something amazing. The other thing that I really appreciated, though, is just how well Cameron can tell a story. The story itself is not super complex. The emotions in it and the humanity in it are complex, but the actual, the plot beats are pretty straightforward. And I mean it as a compliment. By the time that Jake ends up fighting Quaritch in that mech suit at the end, I just remember sitting in the theater and just thinking, like, of course, like this could only lead to this point. The way this story has been constructed, of course we're here. And it's awesome. It's awesome to see Jake fighting this mech suit, you know, like even taking out like all the emotion, and I was caught up in everything with the story of Jake and the Neytiri and everything. I still had that just visceral thrill of just how well he delivers a story. And that's really what excited me to get back into it. And I like Jake Sully a lot. I think Jake Sully is just such a fun, great character.
Yes.
That's really what stuck with me coming out of it, and just his whole conflict coming out of it. You know, the movie has a happy ending, but like we talked about early on, like there is a lot left. There's a lot left after those credits roll to mine. And I've been thinking about that for 2011, right? It's so cool. It's so cool.
Did you all see it in 3D?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A couple times, a few times.
Yeah.
That was
2 or 3 times.
That's
Yeah.
Because you're never going to be able to get
Yeah.
that experience again. You can't,
you can't
bring that movie home and feel the same thing and be sort of surrounded by that same sort of environment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you had to go see it a couple times.
Yeah. It was almost kind of overwhelming. I saw it in 3D as well at kind of a local independent theater. And I remember just, taking the glasses off and just, it wasn't just the 3D thing. It was just being immersed in that world for so long, and then being like, look, this is not, not the same anymore.
Yeah.
It was really powerful. Gosh, we're already at 2 p.m. That actually went by really quickly for me anyway.
Yeah.
But man, we've still got some questions. I mean, I can keep it going for a little bit here if you guys are okay to chat for a little bit longer.
Yeah, of course.
I have time. Yeah, let's do it.
Giveaway is still open for fans in the chat. We'll keep it going until near the end here, and we'll draw a winner. Keyword is Pandora if you're joining us now. Pandora in the chat, just once and only once, and we got your entry. So let's see, we've covered a lot of different ground here, but so we've covered the favorite characters. Are there any like creatures, environments, or like new species that you're especially excited about that we see in this series, Next Shadow? And that could go for all of you.
Is there anything strictly new?
I can touch on that just a little bit. It was really in West Coast. Josh helped me out a lot on this. There were moments where I think I did try to introduce some new creatures into the story, and you came back with alternate suggestions of some creatures that maybe we hadn't seen before, or that made more sense in the context of the scene that we were doing. And I really appreciated that. I mean, as much as I love creating new stuff, anytime I've done other franchises, I really like contributing to it. But it was a really awesome experience for me to, and a lot of it's just problem solving. I'll write a scene. There's a moment in the beginning of issue 3 that I won't give away, but I had a bird in there that was just like, okay, I need to have this character doing a certain thing with a flying animal. And so I just kind of made something up, and you came back to me and were like, well, actually this would be better. This would work better. And it hadn't occurred to me, or I wasn't aware of the animal that you came up with, but I thought that was really cool, because then again, it like just weaves everything back into that Awa-ness you were talking about.
There was one scene later in the series where the Navi and the humans have to work together to go to a new location that we've never seen before. And, Jeremy and I worked out kind of how this could play out from a beat by beat storytelling perspective, and where we wanted to send these characters to go basically on a fetch mission, to drive the plot forward. And it all makes sense once you're going to start reading these things. But, we leaned on some really amazing reference that we pulled from the Flight of Passage ride at Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
The world of Avatar down at Disney's Animal Kingdom, where we needed a location, and we had already built out something that had we'd only seen in that ride. That is officially part of our world. That ride, Flight of Passage, that's canonical. So we said, let's marry these two universes. And that reference was sent to East Coast Josh. And we kind of built this scene around something that was seen in one medium and has been viewed, is seen, on the big 4D screen, and you go on the ride and you experience it, but has never been seen cinematically in the Avatar movies. But now we've brought together into our story world, which I really liked, kind of pulling those threads together to kind of build that story beat. And I thought that was, I was particularly fond of finding that solution. That was really cool for me.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's very cool. So many different things integrated into this universe. So fans watching, you should definitely pick up these comics so that you get the full story.
Yes,
you get to see all this stuff.
Yeah.
So West Coast Josh, I'm about to do the last initial thing. West Coast Josh, do you mind telling folks, maybe especially those who are maybe newer to comics or new to our stream here in the last little bit, what are some of the best ways for fans to stay on top of all of the news and all the happenings and just everything that's going on with Avatar?
So our social channels are really the best places to go. That's really where all of the newest, most exciting Avatar information can be found. Facebook, it's Avatar. On Instagram, it's Avatar, and we actually have a Discord and we have a subreddit, an Avatar subreddit. And so, all of the information, all the newest stuff can be found on those particular spots. I think that's the best place to go.
Excellent. Yeah. So you're on a lot of the different social media channels.
Yeah.
And again, not to be confused with Last Airbender, just to clarify.
Yes. Right. Make sure it's this Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar. But yeah, we're also on YouTube. You can find some clips there, stuff. But Instagram and Facebook are the two main places that I would drive folks to say, go check out there. Those are the spots where you can get the most up-to-date info.
Excellent. Yeah, I just want to second that because I think they're doing a really phenomenal job. Like I mentioned earlier, sharing all those little tidbits, all the it's such a vast world that has been created, and you get to learn all the little things about the plants and the environment, and details about the world, the language itself. People watching in the chat probably speak Navi. I don't, but wow, that's amazing. What a captivating world to have brought people into that level. That's incredible. We've got a few more questions for East Coast Josh about art process. Do you mind just kind of describing a little bit more how you work, how it goes from say thumbnails and layouts to sketches and then when you transition over to the colorist, for example?
Sure. When I get the script, I'll do an initial read through with no drawing at all, just sort of let the story paint pictures in my mind. Then I'll read through it again and do little thumbnails right on the pages of the script. Most of my script pages have little drawings all over them. Then I'll switch to a smaller layouts. These are thumbnails, probably about 2 by 4 inches, about the A big. Those I've gotten tight enough that they'll just end up being, I'll just take photographs of them and send them. Then when those are approved, those smaller drawings I will scale up and then do a rough pencil pass over the smaller drawing until it gets kind of tighter and tighter. And then the final pass, pencil or inks. And that's what it usually looks like when it's done.
Yeah. What's your process for... I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was going to say Josh's process was everything was instantly readable too. And that was really good from our side, from the Lightstorm side, is to be able to, marry up. And again, I've worked in licensed comics and we're all part of the same comic book family here, where there's been, sometimes you get a script and the author and the illustrator will, say, I need to take some liberties with this panel layout or how, however the writer has, built this out. But I think the written and visual language between Jeremy and Josh was just so that I was really able to have my script there, and even in the thumbnail stage, be able to follow along and get the action and the emotion in the thumbnails as I was going through, to be like, okay, you're hitting all the marks. Nothing's being left out, and there's no shortcuts being taken, which I think is also something that I think it's great that Josh did a great job. There was no shortcuts to be like, well, I can't fit that in because this is too noodly, or you're asking for something that I can't do. Like it all was, everything that was written down ended up on the page, and it worked. It worked really well.
I'm a professional. That's what we do.
Yeah. Well,
What?
Even in the script stage, I wanted to make it clear to Josh that, like, if you're the visual thinker of the two of us, and if you have a better way to convey this, go for it. Don't feel like this is a dictation or you're completely bound to what's in the script. I feel like my job is to just convey the emotional context of each image and each scene. And also keep in mind, like, well, how much text can we fit in each one of these panels, and not overload Josh, or not try to ask for too much, even though I know there's a lot of jungle and there's a lot of Navi group scenes, which I know are a blast to draw. But I like the idea of that true collaboration where I'm handing it over to you and I'm just saying, like, to have freedom with this, tell the story, I want you to be invested in it too. I don't want it to be it's not about my genius at all. I'm not a genius. I'm just figuring this out as I go. But yeah,
fortunately, the script was straightforward enough that you don't have to make up for the writer's shortcomings. When the script is just nice beat for beat, and I still have the responsibility to keep the images interesting, like pull out, push in, create interest, create mystique, create loneliness. You got to you have to pull all that stuff in there. But you didn't make the mistakes that a lot of writers do, where it's like they have a conversation back and forth inside a panel. You can't do that.
No, I know. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
And Josh, East Coast Josh, do you typically do inks and pencils yourself and colors, or do you usually work with a colorist on this kind of thing?
I'm a terrible colorist. I always hire people out. Yeah. This guy, Wes, wow, what a job. I mean, it's really nice. That dude's got some skills.
Yeah, he's, like I said earlier, he works on a lot of our licensed comics, and he just really brings such a lush palette to all of these. Yeah, man, I just like these pop so much. I have to say, like, having seen movies like Avatar and read comics like this, I had this idea in my mind of jungle being very vibrant and colorful. And I have to say that the first time I went to, say, jungle in Costa Rica, I was a little disappointed because it is not that bright.
Yeah.
Our jungle has the added benefit of being alien and filled with bioluminescent plants. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a give and take there. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's a very cool jungle. It's a very colorful, and bioluminescence is definitely something that the Costa Rica jungle did not have too much of. Well, thank you for talking process a little bit. I know that's always something that's of interest to our audience. So I like to ask also, I know things are kind of weird with the pandemic and everybody working from home, but are there any other projects that you're working on now that you would like to call out? Anything you have coming up, or any other virtual events maybe that you're doing? And that's one for everyone.
Well, I'm easy. I'm working on Avatar.
Yes.
So all of the Avatar things. So things that are coming down the pike in terms of anything and everything that's not necessarily related to the film. So that's licensed merchandise, that's further publishing material, that's working with our interactive partners. So I'm just, we're making sure that everything is moving forward, and all of our various Avatar programs and partnerships are doing the exact same thing that we're doing with our Dark Horse, our Dark Horse family. So that's, I'm the easy one. So, East Coast Josh and Jeremy, plug away.
Right now, Avatar, Next Shadow is the only thing I've got being published currently. I write every day. I always try to make sure that I'm, I kind of treat it like being an athlete. Like I make sure that I'm working on something at all times. So I'm just working on my own stuff right now, just having fun. So yeah, I don't have anything on the horizon. Just Next Shadow's coming out now, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah.
Publishers, hire him.
Right.
Disappointed. Hire this guy. He's fantastic. Get on it right now while his calendar.
As soon as I get done with this book, the fourth issue, I'm halfway through a 215-page graphic novel set in Imperial Rome. It's a Shakespearean drama tragedy.
Wow. Awesome.
Written by a writer named Mark Hedges. And so that's going to take up another like 6-8 months.
Wow.
Nice. That sounds great. Very
that
cool.
sounds awesome.
It's a wonderful story. I can't talk anything. I can't say anything about it, but
that sounds fantastic though.
Yeah. Let us know when it's done. I want to see it. I want to read it.
Yeah. Like that alone, that just hit like every button for me. So bold, making a note right now.
You probably know some people that know some people that can.
Right. I will call out issue number 2 will be out in early February 3rd. So everybody watching at home, get ready. Like I said, you can pre-order at comic shops and subscribe actually at comic shops. Most comic shops have a subscription option. You can set up a pull box, which will basically, guarantee that you get each issue as it comes out about approximately monthly. Diamond shipping has been a little weird in the pandemic, so you might even get it a little early or something, but that will guarantee you get it. Subscribe. Yeah. Avatar: The Next Shadow. So this is a 4-part miniseries. Previously, we had done Sute's Path, which we've mentioned a few times now. That was another one that actually, West Coast, Josh, do you mind giving another just like quick synopsis, like where that falls in with the
of course
film?
So Sute's Path literally is the story of Avatar, the first film, as retold through Sute's eyes. So Neytiri's betrothed, the heir apparent to the Oloekton role, the leader of the Omaticaya clan, Jake's foil, his kind of initial arch nemesis, but then trusted friend and confidant and brother. It's what does that story look like from his perspective, and how are, you're seeing it through Jake's eyes, through the film, he and Neytiri, but from someone who is living the story as well, that's on the outside of the story looking in, what does that look like? And so that's kind of where Sute's Path sits in our story world. So it's all the events of A1. And then The Next Shadow, as we said earlier, picks up about a week to 2 weeks after the events of Avatar 1 have happened. So Avatar 1 is ended, a little beat, and then you can immediately pick up with The Next Shadow and kind of continue along with Jake Sully, Neytiri, and the Navi of the Omaticaya.
Very exciting. I know lots of Avatar fans are especially excited to get that like glimpse of what's going to come next. So if you're in our chat and you have entered the giveaway, we're about to draw a winner. You're going to get a copy of both the first issue of The Next Shadow and Sute's Path, that concurrent series. So let's see. Congratulations to our winner has been randomly drawn, Kika Kat, and I'm just gonna spell it Kikakatttioi. Kika Kat Tioi. Congratulations. You have been announced in the chat, and all you need to do to claim is you can use the claim command, but you can also just send us a private message here on Twitch, and we'll get in touch and arrange prize shipping with you. So congrats.
Congrats. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating in the chat today, for asking us some great questions. We had an interesting Predator versus Navi one earlier. I'm sure we're all going to be thinking about that one for a while now. Might get some new stories out of that. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you so much to our guests for joining us today to chat about Avatar: The Next Shadow.
No, Kara, thank you very much for having me and for having us. Wonderful moderation.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, Josh, it's been incredible working with you guys. Honestly, you've really brought this story to life, and you've done an incredible job. And couldn't be happier that this story is now part of the Avatar lore. So thanks so much to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I feel the same way. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed working with both East Coast and West Coast Josh. I'm so proud of this book. I can't wait for people to see it. And really quick, I want to give a quick shout out to my brother-in-law, Matt. Over the summer, 2020 was pretty hard. And I went through I got depressed. I'll just say that. I was having a hard time. Our book was put on hold for a little while. The production was put on hold because of the pandemic. Matt is an enormous Avatar fan, and I was talking to him a little bit about what I was working on, and his enthusiasm for this picked me right up and got me over the top. And I appreciate that so much. So I don't know if he's watching now, but thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
But yeah, thanks you guys. This has just been a blast, start to finish. I love it.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, both Joshes, East and West Coast. Those are your names from now on. And Jeremy as well.
Oh,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah.
You don't need a coast, but we can assign you a coast if you would like.
Yeah. Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, there you go.
Jeremy, keep Portland weird.
That's what we're known for. Well, thank you again, everyone who watched today. We'll get in touch with our giveaway winner. And like I said, Avatar, The Next Shadow, issue number 1 is out now in comic shops. We named off a whole bunch earlier. Comicshoplocator.com can help you find one near you. Please pick it up and subscribe at your comic shops. And the video, if you weren't able to catch the whole live stream today, this will be available here on our Twitch channel afterwards. And also we'll have it on our YouTube in about 24 to 48 hours. So we'll announce far and wide as soon as we've got that up, and you can watch the recording anytime and take notes on all of the upcoming Avatar that we talked about. But Next Shadow, thank you so much to the whole team for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Have a great
Have
weekend.
a great one.
Bye, all.
Wherever you are, we'll sign off. Thank you.
All right.
This case goes back generations. Every agent who's tried to solve it has crashed and burned. The case is actually a case, or a box. A box so valuable that wars have been fought over it. Countless people have been murdered to obtain it. Everywhere it goes, death and destruction follow. If you have the case, you must give it to the person you hate the most. Otherwise, the person you love the most will take possession. If you open it, you die. You have 3 days.